Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Do I need to start calling people's names? If all of the panelists could come up to the front, that would be great. Leon, come on up, sir. Scott, have a seat. If you haven't had a chance to grab something to eat, please do so. And we're going to get started here in just 2 seconds. Thank you. So we'd like to welcome everyone to the second panel in our Baldwin DuBois series. Oftentimes people are asking, well, why Baldwin and DuBois? Baldwin and DuBois were two erudite intellectuals from both the beginning of the last century and the middle of the last century who waxed poetic about the experience as both black men and as Americans. But most importantly, they talked about what it meant to be a thinker and what it meant to be a part of the larger society. And so we thought it was appropriate that we couch this series around them. And so I'm going to read 2 quotes to you from them about education this morning. This panel today will be walking you through education and why that's important and the types of experiences that it will open to you as you go down the road. We've got some really wonderful speakers here to give us some perspective on that, and also some recipients and recent students from the Todd A. Lee Scholarship. So first from W.E.B. Du Bois, he said, "The function of the university is not simply to teach breadwinning or to furnish teachers for the public schools or to be a center of polite society. It is above all to be the organ of that fine adjustment between real life and the growing knowledge of life, an adjustment which forms the secret of civilization." From James Baldwin on education, "The paradox of education is precisely this, that as one begins to become conscious, one begins to examine the society in which he is being educated. The purpose of education finally is to create in the person the ability to look at the world for himself, to make his own decisions, to say to himself, this is black or this is white, to decide for himself whether there is a God in heaven or not. To ask questions of the universe and then to learn to live with those questions is the way he achieves his own identity." Today is also an exciting day because we are announcing the Todd A. Lee Scholarship, which is going to be opening again. We are very excited. We've made some changes to the scholarship this year to make it easier for folks who are long-term residents of the District of Columbia to apply. The scholarship was created in 2020 in memory of Todd A. Lee, who was here at the agency from 2016 through 2019. During his career, he focused on innovation, infrastructure, and financing and real estate. He was committed to both affordable housing and education, so the scholarship aims to assist the next generation of industry leaders. The Todd A. Lee Scholarship is open to undergraduates and graduate students who have completed a minimum their sophomore year of college. Applicants must be residents of the district or be able to demonstrate long-term DC residency, like graduating from a DC high school. Students can be attending any accredited university across the nation. There are flyers that you all have in your folders that tell you a little bit more about it. The scholarships will be up to $10,000, so fairly significant. If you know folks who are in need of support and they're going to school, please let us know and to point them in the right direction. We are excited to make sure that our folks are being supported and can be successful. And so now I'd like to start the panel. And I'm going to briefly introduce our panelists, first from the universities, and then because I know these two, I'm going to roast them, so you have to wait to hear what I have to say about them till a little later on. So our first panelist is Ms. Maria K. Day Marshall, who's the director of the Colvin Institute of Real Estate Development at the University of Maryland. Maria serves as the executive director of the program, and serves as its director and clinical associate professor. Ms. Day Marshall has been involved in the municipal finance industry for over 30 years, earned her master's of law and taxation degree from Georgetown University Law Center, a JD from the Columbus School of Law at Catholic University, and her undergraduate degree in economics from Fisk. Mr. Eric Maribojoc, did I get that right? Okay, is the executive director at the Center for Real Estate Entrepreneurship at the George Mason University School of Business. He's the executive director at the center. He's a real estate professional with over 25 years of experience at private real estate investment funds and has been involved in all facets of commercial and residential properties. Prior to joining George Mason, he taught at the graduate real estate program at the Kogut School of Business at American University, where he earned his MBA. Finally, Mr. Seydina M. He's a senior lecturer in finance at Johns Hopkins Carey School of Business. His professional background includes leadership in real estate and valuation consulting. Mr. Fall's work often focuses on the future of cities, including the delivery of public infrastructure products in both developed and emerging markets. He graduated summa cum laude from the New York University and holds a master's in business administration from the Yale School of Management. He's a chartered financial analyst. So to start us off, I'm going to ask each one of the panelists to tell us a little bit about their program, what kind of students that they look to attract, and what it takes to get into the program. So, Mr. Fall, I'll start with you.
Thank you, everyone. So the program, we have at Johns Hopkins, we have a program that's housed in the business school. We have a full-time and a part-time program. The program that I run is focused on real estate, a broad definition of real estate, or broader than just development. And also there's a big emphasis and a focus on infrastructure. In terms of the type of students that we attract, we've got, I would say, a fair number of international students in the full-time program. And in the part-time program, we've got folks who usually have 3+ years of experience in the real estate industry or in some sort of policy-related capacity focused on infrastructure. And then they're coming into the part-time program to accelerate their career. So both the full-time and the part-time program, I would say, have 3 important pillars. The first pillar is a focus on data. And as I said, we're trying to have a broader definition than just development. So we have a big focus on data in terms of big data, how does it affect real estate, things such as prop tech, how does it affect real estate. So I would say that's the first pillar. The second pillar of the program is what I call decisions. So decisions, just in layman terms, I would say, is just about modeling under uncertainty. So, if you're a developer, you want to model, you want a tool, a model that's going to help you, make good financial decisions. But, how can you model things like climate change, decarbonization, ESG decisions? So the program really teaches you how to write models in terms of, you've got your inputs, your outputs. How can you develop a tool that's going to help you make some judicious decisions? So the third pillar is just focused on community. The program is really trying very hard to think about, a bottom line that's more than just looking at IRRs or, equity multiples and a lot of these different financial metrics that, are outputs of real estate investments. But, what about your impact on the community? How can you quantify that? So, we do a lot of work and a lot of research in trying to, bring that into the program as much as possible. In terms of, I don't know if you asked about cohort size, but, we're a smallish program, small, intimate program. In the part-time program, we've got about, give and take 50 students, and in the full-time program, also about 40 to 50 students. So all in, between 75 to 100 students housed in the business school. Lastly, we are both DC and Baltimore based. So in DC, we're in DuPont Circle. In Baltimore, we're in Harbor East, but starting in the fall of 2023, we're moving to the old museum building, the 555 Penn, which is where everyone's going to be housed, the whole business school, plus the School of International Studies, SICE. Thank you.
Maria?
Okay. Hello. So first I want to thank Chris for the invitation to come and speak. I spent 7 years of my career here at the DC Housing Finance Agency as the general counsel and executive director, so I feel like I'm back home with my former colleagues and family, and so it's great to be back here. I'm going to just talk a little bit about the University of Maryland, College Park. It's the state's flagship university and one of the nation's preeminent public research university. It's a global leader in research, entrepreneurship, and innovation. And the university is home to more than 41,000 students, 14,000 faculty and staff, and 377,000 alumni. It was founded in 1856, and it's located just outside of Washington, D.C. We have 12 schools and colleges, one of which is the School of Architecture, Planning, and Preservation, in which the Real Estate Development Program is housed. We are the youngest of the 4 programs in the School of Architecture, and our master's program and our postgraduate certificate program was launched in 2006, so we're about 15 years old now. The program is the 6th of its kind in the U.S., meaning that it is comprehensive and multidisciplinary. We teach everything about the development process from pre-development and acquisition all the way through and including property and asset management. And we educate our students to develop for what we call the quadruple bottom line, which is they should be concerned not only for the old-fashioned financial viability of a project, but also environmental respect, social responsibility, and beautiful and sustainable design. We have a full complement of degree programs now, as I mentioned earlier. The master's program and the postgraduate certificate were launched in 2006. We added a minor program in 2016. It is the second fastest growing minor on campus. We now have 250 students in the minor. And just this fall, we launched an undergraduate major called the Bachelor's of Real Estate and the Built Environment. We also, in the master's program, have 4 dual degree programs. So we have a dual degree with each of the programs, the other programs in the School of Architecture, so architecture, planning, preservation. We also have a dual degree program with the business schools. So you can get a master's of business administration and a master's of real estate development. Our curriculum requires that a student in the master's program take 11 to 14 courses, depending upon whether a student has had any real estate education in the past. We accept everybody with any kind of educational background. So we have students who have a background in journalism, in English, in business, and economics, and architecture. We have students who have a background in education. So when they come in, many of them don't have the foundational knowledge of real estate development, and so we require that they take some introductory courses, 3 of them, one in finance, one in practice and processes, and one in tax and accounting of real estate development. We have a very diverse student body, and that means in terms of gender and ethnicity and race and religion. You name it, we have everybody. All sectors are represented. We have students who come right out of undergraduate school. We have students who are mid-career and want to advance in their careers. And we even have seniors who have embarked on real estate development as a second career. Our program is customizable and flexible. Students can take as many courses as they would like during a semester. Most of our students work full-time, and so if they work full-time, we don't allow them to take more than 2 courses a semester. We just think that, if they do that, that it's a prescription for failure. But we also have students who are there full-time, and take 3 to 4 to 5 classes a semester. The student gets to decide the pace at which they go through the program. And as long as they graduate in 5 years, it's fine with us. All of our classes are offered in the evenings, once a week, from Monday to Thursday from 7 to 9:40 p.m. Most of our faculty are practicing. They're adjunct faculty. They are working in their field during the course of the day, and then they come out and teach once a week in the evenings. Our program is an applied program. It's less research-based. So there's a lot of experiential learning. We take our students on site visits. We want them to feel and see development. We have lots of guest lectures, people from the industry that come out and lecture in our classes. Some of the careers that our students pursue, because our program is broad-based and multidisciplinary, some of them go into tax and leasing and capital markets, and I guess we'll talk about that a little later. That was one of your questions. Our students also participate in lots of competitions. So we participate in the ULI Hines competition. We've been very successful in that. We've been a finalist 6 out of the 10 times that we participated, and we won in 2014 and 2015. We participate in the NAMP competition. We won that in 2017 and 2022. And we are a powerhouse in affordable housing. So we participate in HUD's student planning competition. We have participated 6 times since 2016. We've been in the final 4 6 times. We've come in second place in 2016 and 2020. We won it in 2018, 2019, and 22. So we are the reigning champs in that competition. We also participate in the U.S. Department of Energy Solar Decathlon, and we won that in 2011 and 2017, coming in first in the U.S. and second internationally. And I'll just mention briefly that I also direct the Colvin Institute of Real Estate Development, which supports research, industry outreach, and student enhancements for our master's students. I won't talk about all the events that we host. Chris
I'm about
was
to tell you to drop the mic.
Chris was just present at our Colvin Institute Innovation and Entrepreneurship and Real Estate Awards Gala last Tuesday. So our students get a lot of opportunity to network with industry professionals and to prepare themselves for careers in the future. And I'll turn it over to Eric because I know we're short on time.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks again for the invitation. I want to introduce George Mason University first to you. So George Mason University is the largest public university in the state of Virginia, about 40,000 students and growing. It's also one of the fastest growing universities in the country. It's a young university, was established as a university in 1974. And so we're a very young, growing university that's also one of the youngest R1 universities that's considered the top research university in the United States. So the university's goal is access to excellence. So it's a very inclusive, accessible university. It's a majority-minority university as well. It's also one of the most affordable universities, public universities in Virginia. The Master's in Real Estate Development program at George Mason is housed in our School of Business, but it is based in Arlington, Virginia, right on the blue and orange line, a couple of stops away from the district, where we have our own stop, the Clarendon GMU stop on the line. Our master's program is also the youngest program I think in the DC metro area. We were founded we're about 12 years old. So it's a fast-growing, just like the university, fast-growing, young, innovative program. It's very much a practice-based program. It relies a lot on very seasoned industry professionals to teach the classes. It is a real estate development focused program. So it is focused on commercial real estate development. And when you graduate from our program, you'll actually have a good grounding in real estate development, especially here in the Washington, D.C. area. Not everybody that goes to our program wants to be a developer. They want to be very well versed in their field in real estate to work with developers. We have a lot of lenders, project managers, engineers, builders that come to our program not necessarily to be developers, but to work better with developers. We're very fortunate to be in the DC metro area, which is the 5th largest real estate market in the United States and one of the top 20 internationally. We're a highly experiential program. Just like Maria said, we do a lot of things for our students where they're actually out in the field, they're interacting with industry, and of course, interacting very heavily with our professors who are leaders within their own fields in real estate. It's a part-time program. Almost all of our students are working. It's an evening program. We typically hold classes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. You can take 2 classes every evening. Our classes run from about 4:30 to 10 o'clock. And that way you can knock out your class in one evening and just come once a week if your time is limited. Most people take 2 years or 2.5 years to finish the program, but there is no limit. You can go at your own pace depending on what professional and personal life throws at you, but we have the same regulation that you have to finish it within 5 years of the program. But most people take about 2.5 years on a part-time basis. Mason extends in-state tuition to both the district and Maryland residents. So you have the same in-state tuition as a Virginia resident if you go to George Mason master's program. We offer a lot of scholarships. Last count, we have 11 scholarships for our program. Normally we intake about 25 students every year. The program fluctuates between 70 to 100 students at any one time, depending on how well the real estate industry is doing. People tend to go back to work when things are slowing down. So right now we're kind of growing a little bit, sort of a counter-cyclical thing. We do emphasize a lot that people become really connected with the industry. Real estate is a relationship business, even more so here in the Washington, D.C. metro. So we do a lot of things that encourage the students to create their professional networks while they're in our program, both among the students themselves, as well as with a lot of the industry folks that we try to connect them with. So one of the things we have a little different from is we also have a Center for Real Estate Entrepreneurship called CRE, and that's our connection to the industry by and large. We provide the students with extracurricular activities over and above their classroom that they can go to. All of that is free for them, webinars, seminars, conferences. We have 2 or 3 events every month that are open to everybody in the industry, but our students can take advantage of as well while they're with us. We actually encourage them to go out and be members of industry organizations. We will pay for them to be members of ULI, CREW, NAIOP, all those things that you will need in your career. We will actually subsidize you to actually be a part of those so that you can learn how to be a lifelong learner, a lifelong networker. While you're in the program, we will pay for that so that you have that instilled in you as well. We also offer a lot of non-degree courses for those that don't want to take a master's. In a couple of weeks, we're going to start our Fundamentals of Affordable Housing Certificate, which is our 2-day course for people that want to be affordable housing developers. We have a 3-day course that's a crash course on real estate development, commercial, and a lot of other short-term courses that you can access through our website. We just started our minor in real estate for our undergraduates this year. So that's hopefully a growing part of the younger generation coming up in the industry. Really what our focus on is, we know that for everybody's real estate career, you typically just find a mentor at work and kind of grow that way. We view our program as sort of an accelerant to that. You are taking courses with like-minded people for a short period of time, and that kind of accelerates your learning and your network building to make you successful real estate professionals. So that's us in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you all very much in terms of giving us an overview of the programs. One of the things that you'll see is there's a diversity of philosophy, right? So, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but when we talked to Seydina earlier, he talked really about finance and the capital markets. Maria was very clear about, look, we're looking for practitioners, and we're also based in the architectural school, so it's really a functional program, right? People getting out, being hands-on, and really being in the real estate development space. And so then finally with Eric seems to be kind of a mixture of both of those. And so there's really opportunities along the spectrum to find your place. So as you think about, what are the next steps, there are different buckets or different places that you can land. And I think the last part, Eric, that you really talked about was the certificate programs as well. And so a part of the conversation really was about what are the tools that we need to equip ourselves as we take the next step in our careers. And so on the other side of me, I've got 2 young men who I'm exceptionally proud to know. They are amazing young people and give me a lot of joy as we think about the next generation. And so I'll start with Jason, and I have a funny story about Jason. Jason and I met in an Uber pool, and if you've ever been subjected to an Uber pool, you know what an amazing experience that has been. I've been in one Uber pool, and after I rode with Jason, I never rode in an Uber pool again. It was a little bit like the Amistad. And so, in Uber pools, there's this kind of decorum that you're supposed to keep, right? Like you're not supposed to talk to anybody. Everybody's supposed to be quiet. You're not supposed to be on your phone, right? I don't do none of that. I get in the back of the Uber pool. I'm on the phone. I'm greeting people like, hey, how are you? I'm telling the next guy who gets in the Uber pool, you clearly cannot squeeze next to me in this seat. You got to go all the way in the back, right? So I'm misbehaving the entire ride. And at the end of the ride, Jason looks at me. He goes, what do you do? And I said, well, I work in affordable housing. And he was like, well, can we exchange information? I was like, sure. He was like, well, what's your Instagram? I was like, Instagram? What's my Instagram? Now, he tries to clean this story up all the time, right? I was like, no, young man, you do not slide into my DMs. You can hit me on LinkedIn, or you can call the office and get in touch with me. But this was, I think you had just graduated from Howard, right?
Yeah.
So he had just graduated from Howard, and he was trying to figure out what he was going to do with himself, and he wasn't sure. And so we kept in touch. And then he ended up going to a place that I had worked out in Northern Virginia, got a gig there, went to the Georgetown program.
Yes, sir.
And came out and now has done a lot of incredible things. And it's just such a joy to know that I may have played just a little bit of a role in it. And he was also one of our scholarship recipients. So it's really great to have you here, Jason. Then Leon. Leon belongs to us, right? Like, Leon came to us, it was right after your senior year, you had just graduated. And we have this area upstairs, it's kind of the fishbowl, and it's this area that's kind of blocked off. And he sat in there, he worked for the summer. He went down to William and Mary, he got his MBA, he came back, and he's just been doing some really dope things. And so both of them are very intellectually curious, very assertive and go-getters. And, you know, you see them now, you see us talking to them, remember them when they blow up. I'm telling them to remember me when I'm an old man, I don't have a job, to be here for me. So, guys, can you both talk a little bit about the reason why you decided to go to grad school? And then once you went, what type of opportunities were afforded to you after you completed your degree?
Yeah, so first, I actually want to start off and thank y'all for having me. You know, like you said, I belong to DCHFA and have been here and have a lot of members that I'm really close with. But most importantly, the name behind us is the man that took a chance on me. He saw that I was going to William & Mary and created a position, an internship position, where there actually was none. So that was the kickstart to my career in this industry. But when it comes to you know, me choosing to go to my MBA program, I think a lot of it was facing my fears, really. I had a couple conversations with Chris and other folks at HFA and realized that I did not have the understanding of finance the way that I wanted to and being comfortable with it. And then also, I was a student athlete at Howard, and you know, my coaches left from Howard University and then went over to William & Mary to coach, and they brought me with them since I had just gotten injured. So it kind of was a perfect opportunity to both do my graduate program and to also, you know, play football and learn the finance that I wanted to learn about. You know, so I realized, like I said, that I was fearful, you know, to be honest with you, of the finance and what that meant and, you know, the stereotypical person that's in finance. But, you know, through mentorship and things of that nature, you know, said, let me go after my fears, let me face it, you know, learning it. And that's kind of what happened from there. The long-term implications, though, are, I don't even know at this point, but I've understood that as I sit right now, a lot of the opportunities wouldn't have been presented to me if I didn't do that. The conversations that I can be able to have now, the amount of autonomy that I also have, you know, my role, it came from a lot of the things that I learned in my graduate program and the way that they taught me and the way that they structured the program, so that regardless of me being someone that was straight out of undergrad into a graduate program, you know, I ended up being someone that, you know, can talk on levels with folks that are way more senior and have a lot more experience.
Yeah, I want to echo my colleagues and start off by saying thank you to Chris for having us up here. This is a great opportunity, and just thank you. In terms of why I went to Georgetown. I did the Georgetown Masters in Real Estate program, and I remember I was a broker at a company called Marcus & Millichap up in Bethesda, Maryland. And my senior partner and one of our clients were having this complex conversation about IRR metrics and, you know, different returns and different acronyms and all these different things that I just did not understand. It was a significant, like, LIHTC deal, I think, and I was just not getting what they were talking about. And I asked my boss, and he was like, "Yeah, it took me, you know, 10 years to get to where I'm at right now. It took me quite a long time to really understand everything that I understand now." And, you know, I don't know how professional this is, but like Chris kind of shared earlier, you know, I was really trying to get after it at the time. I called the client, and I was like, "Hey, you know, how did you learn what you learned? How did you get to where you are?" And he told me he went to Columbia University, and at Columbia University did the Masters in Real Estate program, and he gained a ton of information. And in that experience, you know, he built his company from that time. And so from there, I decided to apply to the Georgetown program. That client actually wrote my recommendation letter, and that Georgetown program was extremely meaningful for me. It provided a very solid foundation for me in terms of being able to enter into different companies or different real estate spaces and be able to hit the ground running and be able to make meaningful impact pretty quickly, to dive into projects pretty rapidly, and to be able to learn new things rather fast. So it was extremely meaningful in that capacity. Yeah, there was a second aspect of the question, I believe. Yeah, so for me, it was just very meaningful. Learned a lot, made a ton of really, really good connections. Those relationships, I think, are also another aspect of the Georgetown program that are extremely meaningful. Whenever I'm applying for a new job, I always call my little cohort and just talk through different ideas on, what questions might be asked or what might be meaningful to bring up during the interview.
So one of the things I think is critically important to us here at the agency is building leaders for the next generation, and specifically in affordable housing. Can you all talk a little bit about how your programs build that quality in the candidates as they're pursuing their degrees?
Okay, I'll start. So I think one of the key elements of that is having people who are practicing in the industry to teach these students and to show them what it's like to practice in the industry. And that is what really attracted me to the real estate development program at the University of Maryland. I started teaching there as an adjunct in 2008. And what I really liked about it was that I was able to bring to my students all the knowledge that I had in the industry. And so they get to see what it's like to practice in the real world, in the industry. They get to see what it's like to interact with other professionals in the industry. We also think it's very important that we develop those soft skills with our students. So we really focus on oral presentation and writing skills and Excel skills, because these are the skills that you really need to be successful in the industry. All of our classes require students to write. They write every day, every week. And our professors give them feedback on their writing skills so that they can improve in those skills. Oral presentation skills are very important. You can't just have an idea of what a development proposal should be. You got to be able to communicate that to many different audiences, including boards like the ones like this one at DCHFA. You've got to be able to communicate your idea to the community. You've got to be able to communicate your idea to the zoning commission. So all of those things are very important. And you got to be able to understand numbers, right? You got to be able to develop a pro forma and understand whether a development proposal pencils out. So all of these things are in addition to the foundational courses that we give. We also teach our students about many different sectors. So it's not just affordable housing, it's office, it's industrial, it's retail, many other sectors, so that they're really well-rounded when they leave our program and are prepared to practice in the industry.
So Maria, let me pull some other folks in here.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, so leadership was actually a core class in our curriculum when the program started. It's because of the way it's developed, it's now a very popular elective. So we teach a course called Real Estate Leadership. The book for that course is a book from George Mason Press called Fight for Fairfax: How Civic-Minded People Change the Way Fairfax County Developed. So I recommend that if you look it up on Amazon. But typically what we try to do is we say, because real estate development changes the built environment and how we live and work, leaders naturally are drawn towards this industry. And so we try to promote leadership qualities in our students. Once a year, we have what's called a real estate leadership lecture, where we bring somebody who's made a big impact on the way our community and our city looks, and try to glean from him his career story and his philosophy of how he runs business and how he develops real estate. So that's very ingrained in our program. Those are just two manifestations of how we do that. Our tagline for our master's program is Build a Better World. And that's because what we try to, because it's a real estate development focused program, we try to teach our students that if they do work as a developer or work with developers, they have a big responsibility because they're going to actually impact how people actually live, work, play, educate themselves in our community. So, I mean, for that, it's not just the access to excellence that we all our programs strive to do, but also that extra entrepreneurship drive, that extra leadership drive that you have to be, that have to be developed if you're going to work in real estate development.
Seydina, I'm gonna switch gears on you a little bit because this was really interesting to me as you talked about your program. You talked about how a lot of your students are actually going into the capital markets and doing high finance. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that adjustment in the program has been made over the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years and what's happening as a result of it?
Yeah, I'm just going to touch on the leadership quickly because it's very important. It's a very important question. So for us, just quickly, we have a partnership with a company called Ferguson Partners, which is one of the biggest executive search firms out there and focus on real estate. And we're building what's called the Center of Leadership and Excellence. And the idea is to take students beyond just sort of like doing, grunt work, Excel, things like that. How can you get to the board seat? How can you prepare yourself to be a board member in one of these, big real estate companies? So we have the center. It's going to be part of our new building at 555 Penn. So to your question about capital markets, when we look at statistics, one of the biggest outcomes for our students in terms of jobs that they would get is work in private equity. Why that is because, frankly, if you look at the skill set that we have for our faculty, we have a lot of folks who have done research and spent their time thinking about real estate from a slightly different perspective than, let's say the average folks. What they think about when they think about real estate is, real estate as an allocator. I am an allocator of capital. That's my job. So, you need to make a distinction between being someone who's an operator on the ground. You're an operator, you're building buildings, you're looking to lease them. Our focus tends to be, whether it's voluntary or not voluntary, more real estate as an allocator of capital. I have raised some capital. I invest some in bonds, I invest some in stocks. Real estate is just a slice of my portfolio. That has a lot of implications, and that is why most of the time, that's the outcome that we get. We get folks who are well-trained to think of real estate as someone who allocates capital into real estate.
And so that's an important distinction to make as well about the industry. You've got different layers, right? So you've got a financial layer, which is even above the actual deal. So we'll call that the upper tier, how deals are funded through the allocation of capital. Then you've got folks who are actually structuring the deals, and they're doing that from a capital perspective. Those are your banks, right? And then you got folks who are on the ground and underwriting deals on a day-to-day basis, right? So there are different lanes that you can play in the space. And so kind of pivoting back to you all, tell us more about the lane that you're in and kind of where you started. And you've got an interesting path. I think when you got out of graduate school, you jumped right in. So talk about the lanes that you're in and how your program prepared you to swim in those lanes.
Yeah, when I got out of graduate school, I immediately joined APA, Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing, and a phenomenal company, if anybody's looking. Great organization, an affordable housing developer.
I'm sorry, we have job positions open right now.
HFA, another great organization as well.
What this dude is doing? Come on, man.
But yeah, straight out of grad school, I joined APA. and I hit the ground running. And again, I credit that to my time in graduate school, doing all the various projects, meeting with my colleagues, learning, and the financial acumen and financial literacy she spoke of, being able to build a pro forma, being able to understand a pro forma, being able to understand the various stages of development. So when my boss asked me to do this, maybe I didn't understand exactly what he was asking me to do, but I had the skill sets and the tools to either be able to research it and find the information, or I had the experience to know how to learn what I needed to learn and learn it quickly. From app, I went on to DEMPED, which was a great opportunity as well. We worked on.
Slow down for a second, Jason. So what Jason is not kind of pausing to tell you is he started in the nonprofits, right? He went from the nonprofits to the public sector.
Right.
And then from public sector, I'll let you
To
continue.
for-profit. But all in the affordable space, all strictly focused on community development, affordable development, LIHTC underwriting, and ground-up development, and then some 4% acquisition stuff as well. But at DEMPED, I had an opportunity to work on the New Communities Initiative, which was a citywide program where we're focused on projects like Berry Farm, Park Morton, Northwest One, some really significant city projects. And again, I credit my time at Georgetown to giving me the skill set to be able to, hit the ground running, learn quickly, be able to make a meaningful impact and make a meaningful difference. Now I'm at Dante's Partners, and when I tell you I'm drinking from a fire hose, I mean, it's intense, it's insane, but I love it. And I'm prepared to be able to handle this weight because of my previous experiences. I feel very confident that I'll be at Dante's Partners for the foreseeable future, and I'll do well because of my previous experiences and my exposure. But I truly accredit my foundation and my time at Georgetown to being able to give me the skills that I have now to be able to deliver. I was a political science major. I had no financial literacy or financial acumen realistically coming out of college. I mean, I knew a little bit, but I didn't know a ton. I really sat on these calls as a broker right out of college, selling apartment buildings, small scale, but selling apartment buildings, and didn't understand a lot. I knew how to put people together, but I didn't understand a lot. I didn't really know exactly everything that I was doing. So to be where I'm at now from there is significant, and that foundational layer of that grad program is extremely meaningful to achieve that.
Yeah, I'll say from my experience, it's been very non-traditional from the sense of, going straight from undergrad into a graduate program, an MBA program. And thankfully, as I spoke of before, it was more so the sports opportunity that kind of segued me into it. But it was a grind. It was something that, you're working with folks that have, worked for 4 to 10 years, looking to pivot, experienced in whatever their field is. And you walk into a space where, of course, you're coming straight out of undergrad. But I think that, similar to what Jason was talking about drinking from a fire hose, it was it was sink or swim from the standpoint of the information that you're exposed to, but the support system in terms of the teachers, helped a lot in terms of being able to help us develop and, just understand on a deeper level what it is we were exposed to and understanding how to apply that postgraduate, even though, you didn't necessarily have that experience. I think from a standpoint of it pouring into the industry that I'm in now, a big part of it was working, here at HFA and understanding that there were certain documents or certain concepts that, initially I didn't know, but being in that space, even though it wasn't specifically tailored to affordable housing, I understood how it tied into affordable housing by way of, mentors like, Chris here, but then also, Todd as well, where we've had a couple of conversations late at night where I'm like, I don't know how this, kind of ties in, but he was able to kind of tie those things in for me. So definitely grateful for that, and it helped, to put me where I am now, which is in banking, doing the affordable housing underwriting, with our community finance division, and being able to, I think Roy, I don't know if Roy's here also with Capital One, and I'm pretty sure I'm like, one of the youngest ones by like a few years, but I, personally feel, and then also, you get your performance feedback, this and the third, that, you're not able to necessarily tell, my age and how long I've been in the industry because of those prior experiences. And then also, like I said, the mentorship for sure is a huge piece. I also have one of my co-mentees, mentees here, Seth, who's part of the Generation Hand program, where we have the same mentor. And, those experiences are ones that, once you pull on them and you're able to ask the right questions and understand what you don't know, like, know what you don't know, is one of the biggest things to be able to, like, push yourself forward. So being able to leverage all of that from the program and those mentorship opportunities, I think that definitely helped in terms of where I am now in the industry.
One thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning, if you all have questions, inside of the folders, you have tablets, notepads, and pens. You can jot those down and hold on to them, and then when we open the question and answer session, just pass them to the end, and somebody will come by and pick them up. So you all both talked about the transition in and how important the opportunity for your educational experience to give you that entree. As you went through the program, clearly there were moments in time that really got you up to speed. There's something called a capstone, and I'm going to throw this out to everybody. Can you all talk a little bit about it, and then we'll bounce that across? Like, what is a capstone, and what was your capstone on, and what are the purpose of capstones, and how do they impact your graduates?
The capstone is a serious project. It is the culmination of your entire time in your master's program. I believe my capstone was something like 80, 90 pages, maybe longer, single-spaced with a couple pictures. It was an intense project, extremely meaningful, though. I did my capstone project on a site in Anacostia, DC, an affordable housing site. I did it through this twinning method. Twinning is where you couple 4% and 9% LIHTC tax credits together to build. In reality, in DC, it's a little bit difficult to successfully do like a ground-up twinning project, but for an academic purpose, it was very, very interesting and pretty exciting. From a capstone perspective, it was extremely challenging and time-consuming. But so you gather all this information and data, you write this extensive paper, and then you present this capstone to either a board. In my instance, the capstone advisor, I guess, had partnered with a variety of different schools or churches or organizations that were potentially going to be doing something with this land. Mine was the Children of Mine Youth Center in Anacostia, and they were potentially going to be developing affordable housing on their site. So I pitched the deal to them, and I told them about the opportunities that they had, how they could finance it, what they may need to go through in terms of zoning, and what it would look like to really have a 90 to 100 unit affordable housing site on your current lot. And it was a really meaningful project. I learned a lot. I was able to engage with the leadership at the Children of Mine Youth Center. Super intense, but really meaningful. And I had to display all the skills that I had gained during my time.
Yeah, we didn't necessarily have a capstone at the MBA program. We more so had what we call a CAM, and essentially based on your specialization, which I was a finance specialization. That was more so of being able to work with. We had an academic and a practitioner both as our professors, and so we had that tandem of being able to be taught, deeper level finance, but then also being able to work on projects throughout that assisted us in being able to, work it out, see what actually happens in this space, but then also having their feedback in terms of like how we can innovate or, think of things a little bit differently. So that was more so of what I would describe as like our capstone project that was, specifically tied to our graduate program, but it was a lot more broad in terms of, an MBA in finance rather than it being specifically the real estate portion.
So we do have a capstone. It is basically in your second year, the accumulation of a lot of the classes and experience you've had in the program. Our capstone is, because we are experiential practice-based, our capstone is actually based on, we find a real landowner or a real property owner who's thinking about a higher and better use for their property. And our students basically form a consulting team to this property owner. And over the course of a semester, they build out a business plan from marketing to the engineering to the entitlements to the financial model. And then at the end of the semester, they will pitch this proposal to the property owner or the landowner, and the landowner and the professor then give them a grade. So that's our capstone. And you put together all the skills and all the experiences you've had in our MRED program, and you actually pitch a real deal based on a real property. And a lot of them have been private owners. We pitched to cities, a lot of parking lots that cities want to get rid of. We pitched those. We pitched, right now we have a lot of office buildings that are getting pitched. But it's higher and better use, basically, is what the students need to think about.
So we also have a capstone, very similar to what they do at George Mason. It is the last course that the master's students take. It's the culminating course where they get to apply everything that they've learned in the program to a real-world development site. We often partner with governmental entities or developers or community groups. And the students then have to do a feasibility study and develop a proposal as to what the highest and best use of that property should be. They address all kinds of issues, financial issues. They have to come up with they address construction management issues, environmental issues, what the community benefits of their proposal might be. All aspects of the real estate development process are addressed in the report that they ultimately do. And then at the end of the semester, we have a capstone competition where the students compete against each other. They present their proposal to a panel of real estate development professionals, and they get monetary prizes. The best development proposal will get the highest prize, and then on down the line. But it is a chance for them to really apply everything that they've learned in the program.
I'm nodding to Maryland's capstone because I used to work in that, so it's a very good capstone. Our capstone this year is focused on climate risk. So just like a lot of the panelists mentioned, it's very much a consultancy. So our client, quote unquote, this year is Fannie Mae. They reached out to us. They wanted us to work on climate risk. So climate risk is something that's very important in real estate portfolios of institutional investors, right? If you're Blackstone or you're CalPERS, players like that, the SEC is starting to mandate them to report the carbon footprint of their buildings. So Fannie Mae is working on developing a tool that's going to be able to measure climate risk for their portfolios, and that's what we're going to be working with them on. So very much, this is what we're working on this year, but next year it could be something that's different. But once again, our focus is very much on the institutional space, and the capstone is going to be a consultancy where they, quote unquote, hire our students to solve a problem for them.
So Seydina, just to be clear, is this for the entire cohort? Are they doing it together? Are these individuals who are doing it? Are there groups of students? How does your capstone work?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the capstone is mandatory for folks who are in the full-time program. And what we do is we split up the project into different groups. All right, so Fannie Mae has some key deliverables. So we have 3 key deliverables, and we're going to split up the groups into those deliverables. And we have a before where we meet with Fannie Mae, they explain the problem to us, and then we have an after where we present our solution to them. But it's very much team-based, and at the end, the main thing is to be able to try to solve the problem that they have, but it's very much group-based.
Okay. So now I'm going to ask a question, and our panelists will answer different sides of it. Grad school is also a big financial commitment. So from the institutional side, what is the tuition for folks to attend, and is there assistance? And then for you all, How much did it actually cost to go to grad school? Are you still paying loans? Like, was it worth it? You guys can just jump in.
Okay. So my numbers are not the latest, but in the ballpark. So for Mason, like I mentioned, we're typically one of the more value-oriented options in terms of public universities in Virginia. So our tuition for graduate students, and again, this applies to DC and Maryland residents as well. So we treat, at the graduate level, we treat them as in-state tuition, as in-state residents for tuition purposes. It's about 900 something, around $900 or so a unit. And there's 36 units in our program. Like I mentioned, we have, right now we have 11 scholarships for incoming students that we, they range all the way from $3,000 to $10,000 for our scholarships. And a lot of folks, if you're considering it, also ask their companies. A lot of our students come to us with their companies paying part of it because it's a benefit to you as an employee to them, and also something that a lot of people offer to develop talent pipelines.
So Eric, you said how many credits again? Like 36?
Yeah, we're 36 credits.
So about $32,000.
Yeah,
for
roughly.
the entire degree.
Yes.
Or just a year.
No, the whole degree. So that's over 2.5 years.
Okay. Maria?
Yeah, our tuition is pretty competitive. It's about the same. Most of our classes are 3 credit hours. In-state tuition is about $888 per credit hour, about $1,200 for out-of-state tuition. For in-state, I think it's about $32,000 to $35,000. For out-of-state, it's about $45,000.
Degree?
That's for the degree. And we do have some scholarships that we give to our students. We're always raising money for scholarships. Our program the other day was to raise scholarship money for our students. And we also have graduate assistantships where students are able to get a stipend. They can get either 10 credit hours or 20 credit hours paid for in tuition, and they get to work in the programs. So, but, I think just overall, the biggest barrier to a lot of students to get a graduate degree is tuition. And so we're always partnering with companies and firms to get them to sponsor their students. We're always asking donors to donate money for scholarships for students because, let's just be honest, it's the minority students that have the biggest barriers to paying the tuition. And we get some great candidates, and they're not always able to pay the tuition. And so that is a real big focus for us because we want to see these students be admitted, enrolled, and finish out the program. And so we're always working hard to give them some kind of assistance so that they can get through the program and be successful and get out in the industry and practice.
So for us, for the Masters in Real Estate and Infrastructure, I would say the tuition is somewhere in the $60,000 range. So, it is. It is. So I'll repeat that, Donald. So it's a Master's in Real Estate and Infrastructure, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, we're in the $60,000 range, somewhere between 60 and 65, if I'm not mistaken. So.
You're looking at Maribojoc and Lexington.
That's all I'll say.
Fair enough. So if you guys have questions, you can go ahead and write them down. Oh, Sorry. If you have questions, go ahead and write them down. I do want to take a moment as well. I didn't do this at the beginning, and I apologize, to recognize my amazing staff who keep me in line, Susan Ortiz and Yolanda McCutcheon, who are on the communications team, and everything that you see happening here is because of all of their hard work. I'd also like to recognize one of my board members who is here, Heather Wellington. Wave your hand. Thanks for your support. And then the rest of the staff who's here, just wave your hand. These are all members of the team. So thank you guys. All right. So questions. If you have a question, you want to raise your hand and we'll pick those questions up. No questions.
I had a question for Jason. I was curious, what is a skill that you learned at your real estate development program at Georgetown that you think was important from your transition from schooling to being in the working world?
Appreciate the question. Pretty simple for me, pretty straightforward. It was the growth in financial acumen. Like the financial literacy courses that I took changed the game for me. I feel like my ability to underwrite and make meaningful impacts on the underwriting team is significant. So for me, if I was to do it over again, I would continue to hone in and focus on any financial. If they have a structured finance class, take that class twice. It's a great class.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to go back to the question you proposed, Chris. The left side of you answered it, but the right side of you did not answer it. So if they can answer how they paid for their tuition and how they went about it, that would be very beneficial.
Good point, Roy.
Thank you.
That's Roy. He all about the money now. Yeah, so like I talked about, I had a different route. So went from playing football and then was going to use my year at William & Mary. So a lot of the scholarship transferred over even though I didn't use the year. So that was a blessing within itself. And then a lot of the tuition, so our tuition currently is what? I think when I looked it was $36,000 in-state, and then out-of-state it's $48,000, I believe. So a significant portion of that is picked up, through the scholarship. They do offer a lot of scholarship opportunities, so if anyone's interested in the William & Mary MBA, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help facilitate in terms of scholarships for that. But lastly, hopefully when it comes to tuition forgiveness with, Biden, hopefully a lot of that goes through too, because that'll, take care of the rest. But yeah, that's essentially how I paid for it and where we're at now.
Yeah, I do not remember or recall what the Georgetown tuition is at this moment, but I certainly am still paying for it. I do have student loans. And then obviously, I applied for the Todd Lee scholarship, not once, but twice. So I was that has truly been a blessing, and I'm, seriously grateful for that to this day. To be able to uphold that legacy is meaningful to me. But yeah, scholarships and then student loans, that's how I got through it. And I think it will pay dividends. I mean, in terms of income potential, it's already paying dividends. And over the long term, my expectation is it'll 10x. So I think it'll be fine.
All right. Well, now we have more questions.
So I graduated many moons ago, and I honestly hadn't been considering a graduate program, so it's interesting that I find myself here. But is it an all or nothing thing, or can somebody pop in and take a structured finance class or, something like that?
So for regular classes, you do have to be an enrolled student at George Mason University. So as I mentioned, the Center for Real Estate, which is kind of a parallel organization to the master's program we have, that's where we have our short-term non-degree classes. So As I mentioned, we have 2-day classes, 3-day classes, so it's an affordable housing, commercial real estate development. So those are open to everybody. And those are basically our offerings for non-degree students.
But do you have certificates, which are a little bit longer, but not the class duration? So a structured finance class is going to be more than a couple of days, right?
Yeah, so we're in the process of actually structuring that now. We have a new dean. He's not new, he's been there about over a year, but his goal is modular learning. And it's another way for Mason to drive down the cost of education even further. Stackable courses, stackable degrees. So in about a year, you're going to see Mason start to offer a course that you can take, say structured finance, and then you get a certificate in that, and if you get enough certificates, you get a degree. And that's coming. We're currently at the state level right now trying to get approval for it, and hopefully that'll come to the real estate program. It's starting off in the management program, but that is certainly coming as far as George Mason's concerned.
So at Maryland, you can enroll as a non-degree seeking student and take some courses in the real estate development program. We also have a postgraduate certificate where you take 4 to 7 courses and then get your certificate. If you're interested in then pursuing the master's program, you can apply all the credits that you've earned in the certificate to the master's degree.
Yeah, for us, as far as I know right now, it's like you said, it's an all for nothing, all or nothing rather. We're working on potentially developing an executive program where we're actually deep in those discussions, which will allow more flexibility, but so far you would have to matriculate as a student.
One thing I'll add to that though, and just even the title of this actual series, DuBois Baldwin, and understanding, I mean, for you, Chris, putting this together and being an amazing innovator and father, leader of the whole nine. Like I
didn't pay for this.
Oh my, yeah, no, not at all. But I think at the end of the day, one of the things that's beautiful about this series is understanding, even just Baldwin, for example, had no education past high school. DuBois went to Harvard, and studied there, and those are people that are two great, philosophers and educators and all these other things. But I feel like part of the powers and the disparity between those two in terms of their background and education. Someone told me, they said, do not allow your role to be your only source of education. Do not allow that to teach you everything that you know. So yes, all of us have advanced degrees out of on the panel, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of different opportunities out here that allow you to, be someone like a Baldwin, where if you only have a high school education, you're still able to, educate yourself and be able to propel yourself in the industry. Just wanted to add that to education.
Not everybody has a graduate degree. Ms. Wellington had a question.
You can go first.
No, that's fine. Ladies first, please.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning. Hi. I am a graduate of the Colvin Institute, MRED program, so hello. Thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I was a finalist in the Heinz competition, but this question is just about, for all the programs, I get this question from my team often that have been working for several years, they're returning back. Do you offer any credits for work earned through their job if they're already in real estate? Are there any classes that they can get that credit for so they don't have to retake it? I do think being in the class is important and you learn from other students, but sometimes they don't want to retake a certain class because they've already done that or they do that in their day job. So can you speak to that?
So for Mason, we do not do work experience credit. What we sometimes do on a case-by-case basis is you'll waive a class so you can take another class. But as far as academic credit for work experience, we currently don't have that in our program.
I mentioned earlier that our students have to take 33 to 42 credit hours if they haven't had any previous real estate education, they have to take the introductory courses. However, if you have some work experience, we will waive the requirement to take one or all of those introductory courses depending on what your experience is.
Yeah, and for us, for me as the director of the program, I get in those conversations a lot. So the long story short is, it's a conversation. We'd have to, talk about it, but we have waived certain classes based on your work experience, but it's going to be based on, we would have to have a conversation about it. So it's very much open for discussion.
Leon, I did make a comment in passing, and I think it's really important to make this observation. For people of color, and specifically black folks, graduate degrees matter, right? That kind of checking off of the box, that kind of pedigree is really important. I'm really lucky. I didn't have to go back in order to have some of the experiences that I did, but that might not be the journey of everybody. And so, the accessibility, the affordability, all of those things are critically important. And I will again take the moment to say this. For folks who are looking to be in the real estate space and specifically affordable housing, we've got resources. We want to make sure that that opportunity becomes more attainable. And so if it's not for you, but if it's for someone else in your circle, please let them know that we have them here. We really want to make sure that people have the opportunity, that this is not the impediment, and we want to make a difference. And that's kind of our commitment in terms of having a community focus to be able to do that. Any more questions? I think, sir, I'm going to give you the last question.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you guys having this program. This question is more for Seydina, but Eric and Maria, please feel free to also address the question as it relates to your program. With the new push towards AI, how much are you seeing real estate playing a role or AI playing a role in your program? Or how open are you in the programs that you've structured to allow AI systems and technology to be part of a student's growth, and a student wanting to take things to another level and not just be so focused on structural, architectural and community development areas?
Oh, thank you for that question. I'm a big proponent and fan of AI in real estate. We're developing a program right now with Avalon Bay and their AI team. So in addition to that, we're launching a new elective class called Big Data in Real Estate. So it's very much in the early stages, but I started this job 6-7 months ago. And one of the reasons why I accepted it is, to bring that conversation more into the table, develop classes. So I'm a big proponent of AI, in real estate. Our students, it's a nice idea to have, but the students really have to have the skill sets to be able to apply some of the opportunities that are going to be offered to them. And that, if I'm speaking just honestly today, that has been, somewhat of a struggle, right? Because your typical real estate student may not, be well-versed in R or in Python and things like that. So to be able to really apply that to real estate, I think there's, maybe in a couple of years, we can have this conversation. I can tell you we're doing these great things, but long story short, the school is very open to it. I am the program director. I'm very passionate about it, but it's going to take small steps to really be able to do things that are tangible, that are very actionable. People talk about AI a lot, but cybersecurity could be one of them, right? Because if you have all these buildings that are controlled by, technology, security comes up, and cybersecurity is a huge provider of jobs currently, and that's something that we're working on as well. But, we have to build the student skill set first, and that's going to take time.
I agree with Seydina. We are in the process of developing courses for data collection and AI. And I think you'll see that more and more in all of our programs as that field grows. So I just wanted to say, you know, that Du Bois also went to Fisk University, my alma mater, so he wasn't just Harvard
That's where he started.
educated. Yes, yes.
So for George Mason, those kinds of classes start off at the center. So we usually we try out an event, a conference, or a certificate, short-term certificate. Last year we tried a real estate data analytics certificate. So, you know, and then as far as the other ones, you know, from blockchain to to autonomous vehicles to all sorts of other things, that usually starts off as a short-term offering. And then yes, along with my colleagues here, then we think about, you know, can we convert that into a class, an elective predominantly. That said, we also have a task force right now on ChatGPT and how the students are using it. So it kind of cuts both ways in terms of AI. Certainly, it has a lot of different ramifications for a university, for sure.
Yeah, I'd really like to thank my panelists for volunteering their time today. Thank you guys very much. And we will be announcing our next panel coming in June, which will be home ownership. And so we have a lot of interesting things that we will be talking about then. Again, thank you guys for coming here today. We're going to hang out for a minute if you have additional questions that you'd like to ask of the panelists.